Hi there, Phil Simbar for the USBGF. One of my students was having some difficulty with this play of double sixes. It's a money game, or it could just as easily be 11 away, 11 away. And you have double sixes to play. You're red. How would you play it? Looks like there's three ways, three good sixes to play. You can take two checkers out to here. You can put two checkers to the 5 point. You can put two checkers on the 7 point. Some combination of those three has to be right. So which one do you think it is? Take a guess. Make your best guess. All right, let's take a look at the plays. Let's see. Here's one combination. You're leaving this shot. You're not really making a prime. You're not really running too well by going up to here. Not real pretty, but not horrible. Play number two. Let's see this. Making your 5 point usually seems to be right. Most of the time when you put things into extreme gammon, if you had a chance to make the 5 point and you didn't, you're going to be in trouble. So this looks pretty good. Let's look at the alternative of making the 5 point and making this point. 5 in a row. I like 5 in a row. Looks pretty good too. Of course, you're leaving a shot here and you're leaving these two checkers back. So I'm going to narrow it down. I'm going to make the call for you that you have to make the 5 point, and then it's one of the other two plays. Which one do you like? Okay. Without my telling you which play is better, let me show you one way that you can try to figure it out and help you figure it out. Let's pretend we make this play. On the next roll of blue, what hurts you? Well, a 6-4 is a pretty good roll for him. He makes this point. 6-5 isn't a bad roll at all. He makes this point. Any 2, he makes this point. Or he makes this point. They're duplicated. So that's about all that can really hurt you, and you got a pretty strong game if you do this. Let's look at the other play. What rolls can hurt you if you make this play? Well, 6-4 hits you, which you would probably do as opposed to making the bar point. Any 2 makes this point. That really doesn't hurt you, but it's not bad. 6-1 and 4-1 make the bar. Of course, in both cases they duplicate hitting. 3-1 also duplicates the hit, so a lot of duplication here. Double 3s, double 4s, double 1s, double 1s. Ouch. Quite a few rolls might hurt you here. So maybe this would lead you to the right play. And looking at what your opponent can do on the next roll and then what you can do on the following roll after that is always a good way to examine a play. You only need to go one roll forward to see which is better. So again, if you have trouble making a decision from that, then of course you give up and you hit the button and you ask our friend Extreme Gammon what's right and try to figure it out. The right play is to make the 5 point, of course, but it's much better to come out than to make the 5 prime, mainly because there's so many rolls that are good for him when you make the when you leave the shot and you leave these two checkers stuck back here going forward. So you'll see when it's done rolling out that the best play is to come up and come in, and it's right by a very, very large margin. Now, here's another way to understand the play better. Let's say you've now seen the answer and you still can't quite see what's right. This happened to one of my students, and it's still a little bit tough to see what's right. you can get a lot of insight from dice distribution. I'm going to hit Control C, which saves this problem, this position to my clipboard, and I'm going to make the best play. And then I'm going to put blue on roll, and then I'm going to minimize the screen so it's smaller, and hit dice distribution. You'll see why I made it smaller in just a minute. Analyze, dice distribution, and I've got a pattern now that shows, after I make the right play, what's really good for blue and how good is it. He's, like I said, a 6-4 was pretty good, double 2, 6-2, 6-6. These are pretty good rolls for it. And what's his equity? He's in the 40% range. I'm sorry, he's in the opposite range. If, for example, here he's minus 100%, so here he's minus 80%, so here he's minus 40%. Even with his best roll, his opponent has about a 60% equity in the match. Or red has about a 60% equity. That's what these numbers show. And it shows just how many really good numbers there are, and how good they are, and how many really bad numbers they are, and how bad they are. If you're curious to know how he plays a 6-4, does he make the bar, or does he, well, here he clearly makes the bar. That's why it's such a good roll. But if you're curious to know how he plays any of the rolls, you can go to detail, and you can see with the 6-4 he makes the bar. And if you're curious to know how good red can roll after he makes the bar, you can look at expanded. Then you can look at the 6-4 and see all of the possible rolls, 27 possible rolls or 36 possible rolls of the dice for red, and see how red can respond and what red's equity would be when he does certain things. Of course, the best thing red can do is roll a double 4 after this play, be able to hit this checker and come around and pretty much win the game. And the worst thing that could happen to red after that play would be a 6-1, which really doesn't do anything. If he makes the bar, he's leaving a direct shot, or he stacks. Not a very pretty roll. 2-1 also doesn't do much. This is, by the way, 6-1. He plays 8-2, 6-5. I'd have to roll that out to be sure. I wasn't sure that was my play, but maybe it's right. So you can learn a lot by looking at this too. But let's go back to our graph. This shows graphically what it looks like on blue's next roll, all the things he can do, and how much damage or harm comes to him as a result of making the best play. Now I'm going to open another version of Extreme Gammon. Remember when I hit Control C, I saved the position to the clipboard. Now I'm going to hit Control V and paste it into this next version. And now I'm going to make the other play, the second best play, where you make the 5-point and you make the bar point. And now I'm going to put blue on roll. And now I'm going to hit dice distribution, analyze dice distribution, and I'm going to compare what these look like. Oops, I can't do it until I move this out of the way. I'm going to move this down out of the way, and now hit Analyze, Dice Distribution, and compare them side by side. Here's the better play, here's the worst play. I'm sorry, yeah, here's the worst play. So with the worst play, you're giving him a joker, double 1. 2-1's kind of neutral, but look at what the equity is with all these rolls. He's only minus 10 or 20% with all these rolls instead of minus 40 or 60%. And look how many really bad rolls he has that end the game, and how the other bad rolls, the less than average. Red are the rolls that are worse than average, and green are the rolls that are in the middle. The silver bar is the one that we happen to have showing at the moment, which is the double 6. So I could have had anything showing, it just didn't matter. You can just see from this pattern how much better this looks. These bars are much longer shooting down from the 0 point, and much more negative shooting down from the 0 point than these bars. There are many, many more rolls that hurt blue, and his good rolls don't help him anywhere near as much as the good rolls do here. So here's another graphic way to see the difference, and you can look at details and compare the differences that way too by just how much equity there is in each roll. Let's just put it on first roll, and you can look at the equities between the two and see just how good his best roll allows him here and how good his best roll allows him here. If he rolls his best roll when you make the best play, he still has a negative 0.38. If he makes his best roll when you make the other play, he has a positive 0.15. But again, you can also look at the average. The average when you make the best play, his average gets him at minus 0.719. What's the average here? The average is at minus 0.42 instead of minus 0.71. I mean, that's the number that really is going to jump out, because what is a person going to roll on average? He's going to roll average on average. He's not going to roll the double six and the double one. We're using most common variation. What's most likely to happen is he's going to roll somewhere within a standard deviation of the average most of the time. And if he rolls off the standard deviation, if he rolls really, really well, how many really, really good numbers does he have in this position that really help him, and how many really bad numbers there are. So this dice distribution can give you tremendous insight into why your thinking might have been wrong, why you didn't see how much better one play is than the other. Sometimes we can't visualize how these games play out. We often have a problem when you look at a position to think about what are all the good rolls, what are all the bad rolls, and how this plays out. There's a lot of things visually about this position that isn't quite as pretty as this position. We're trained to love 5 primes. This looks very, very pretty. If you want to play pretty, this is pretty backgammon. This is pure backgammon. But it's nowhere near as good in this position at this time with the cube in the center than this play. Hope this idea helps you. Hope you can start using extreme gammon more deeply and use dice distribution to give you the kind of insights that it's giving me and my students. It's really, really helping us understand the plays. And by the way, if you learn how to use dice distribution after you see the right play, in your mind you'll start doing this too. You'll start picturing, maybe if you're a graphic type person, you'll start picturing a graph in your head. You'll start seeing shapes form of how many good rolls there are. You'll start seeing red bars shooting way down and green bars shooting way up in your mind. Even if you don't do it that way, you'll start visualizing better what are really good rolls and how good are they. What are really bad rolls and how bad are they? How many really good rolls there are? How many really bad rolls there are? That's what it's all about. That's how you can really analyze the tactics or how you move the checkers in this game. Of course, start out with your emphasis on game plan, and you often won't even have to do something like this. When you decide on the right game plan first, you're going to have a better view of what to do. You're clearly winning the race here. Moving these checkers out helps your race. If you played a priming game, this is a great priming game, but a priming game isn't that easy to hold when you have 2 checkers back. He can counter prime you, he can hit you. You can break this prime very easily with these 2 checkers back here, especially if he hits a 3rd checker. So playing the racing game was a better game plan than the priming game, and that's another big clue in this position. I hope this was insightful and interesting to you. If you start doing this with more and more positions, you'll see how much fun it is to compare side by side. The trick is to make the screen smaller and get the main thing out of the way, get the main view out of the way, so that when you bring up dice distribution, you can put them where you can see them side by side. Thanks a lot for watching, and again, thanks for supporting the USBGF. I'll see you all in Peoria. Bye-bye.